Call this meeting of the Prattville Planning Commission to order. Mr. Stenopoulos, will you call roll, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Mayor Gillespie, Councilman Bowles, Chairman Smith,
Here.
Vice Chairman Gardner,
Here.
Chief Johnson,
Here.
Ms. Carpenter, Mr. Hall,
Here.
Mr. McCauley, Mr. Nelson.
Here.
Thank you. We are going to skip down to item number 2, the replat of Oyster Property Plat 1A located at 2498 Constitution Avenue. And it is a replat. Can you tell us about this, Mr. Duke? Yes, sir, I can. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Oyster Plat 1A is a replat of a 1.1 acre parcel that was created last year out of the James Hobson Sanford property there off of Constitution Avenue. The owner is replatting that into a 0.53 acre lot and a 0.57 acre lot to permit the development of a second rental unit. What exists on the lot already is a lodging facility. It's built and appears like a house, but it is a facility that is leased out on a short-term and long-term basis, and it's more like a hotel and is treated as such under the city's zoning ordinance. So this is commercial property. Again, it's dividing that 1.1 acre lot into another single lot. It still has to go through development review process, and we recommend approval of this replat.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from Mr. Duke? Mr. Stenopoulos, can you let the record show that Mr. Bowles and the mayor are present? Thank you. Any questions? We want to have a vote? Do I need a motion? I do need a motion. You got one?
Item number 2.
Item number 2. That's right. The verbal motion.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, Mr. Hall, a replat just requires a simple motion to approve. So it's a motion, a second, and then a vote on that motion.
I make the motion we accept this as stated.
I second that motion.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. We are good. Since we did skip to the second, we might as well go on and do replat of Willow Ridge Apartment Plat 2. On number 3, on the third, can you tell me on the replat of Willow Ridge Apartment Plat 2, what's going on with that one, Mr. Duke?
Yes, sir. There are representatives here for this item, but I will go ahead and cover it, and
okay.
They are welcome to provide input if they would like. The owners of Willow Ridge Plat number 1, which is Apartments Plat number 1, which corresponds with the Willow Ridge Apartments off of Old Farm Lane, there behind the Days Inn and behind the Ashley Home Furniture. They are asking to basically shift a lot line that would be the lot line between Lot A and Lot B, shift that south to encompass, basically to leave the vacant property vacant and place 2 units or 2 buildings that they just completed in with the rest of the apartment property. So this is simply moving of a lot line. All easements that are there will be preserved, and I understand talking to them that as they build another phase, it will probably be another shift at some other time. It's really more about financing for the lots and making sure that the apartments all stay in a single lot and the vacant property stays vacant. So again, staff sees has no opposition to this request and recommends approval.
Are there any questions for Mr. Duke? Can I have a motion? We have a motion by Mr. Bowles. Is there a second? Second. I'm sorry. Yeah.
He'll take it.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. All right, let's move on to item number 1, which is old business, and let the record show that I have spoken to Mr. Duke and to Bob Champion and to Ms. Catherine back there the last week on this subject. And I believe we do have some work on this and a resolution to it. Mr. Duke, would you like to address the commission?
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to fill in where we are, and I believe Mr. Champion is here to represent Home Place and can tell you about their modifications to the originally submitted plat. You recall at the last meeting you were presented with a 6-lot addition to the Home Place PUD subdivision. It's listed as Phase 1J, which is adjacent to the Phase 1C. The 6 lots range from about an acre in size to 1.2 acres. They front on the extension of a street, which is known as Firefly. And there was some question about this being a modification from what was originally shown in their sketch plan, and that there would be termination of a street that was supposed to connect from Phase 1C, which is known as Barn Cut. And there was also some question about an area that had been previously platted as non-buildable and open space. And I believe that's where we left it. There was a motion to hold it until this meeting to allow the applicant some time to make some modifications and talk with the neighbors. So that's where we are. There has been a letter submitted talking about modifications. You have a copy of that, and I believe Mr. Champion can probably fill in a little bit more information. So be glad to answer any questions at this point, or wait till.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Duke at this time? Yes, sir.
Is this the revised resolution?
The
Or is this the same resolution it's been entered before? We don't need to be re-entered, does it?
No, sir. The resolution was properly before you. What needs to happen, if you see fit, is to make an amendment to this resolution to say that you're approving the revised or the revised version that's submitted by the applicant. But this item is already before you, if that's the question. So the resolution has been read. There's something on the table. If you decide to make changes to it, then you'd be amending.
I see. I understand.
Okay.
I just noticed the word revised on it, so I wondered if that was on the original resolution that was read into this.
Yes, sir. Make sure I'm clear on that. This submission for 1J is the second time that's been submitted. It was submitted several years ago. It was initially submitted in 2005. Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Champion.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Bob Champion, representative of the Home Place Development, and I appreciate y'all bringing us back before you. At the June meeting, it was recognized that there were still some concerns, both from the commission and from the residents, and upon your recommendation, we went back and established a meeting with the residents on June 15th to hear their concerns and see how we could resolve those issues. Also, because most of you know that this is market driven, Also had to include the owners of the property and the potential buyer for the lot to make sure that they were okay with all these. So it took a little more time than we had anticipated than just this rubber stamp overnight, let's make rash decisions. With that being made, we had 5 residents that did come and sit down with me. A few others we have corresponded with via emails. And after, you guys bear with me, I'm terrible at trying to prep for something. I'm a lot better off the cuff, but I'm going to try and go through these notes so that I make sure I cover everything. After reviewing the initial drawing and hearing the concerns of the residents, a meeting was held for the residents to address these concerns and allow us to improve the Phase J preliminary plat. From the meeting, it was recognized that the green space was not adequately identified, and because of the original design and drainage consideration, these spaces have been now, 1, properly identified, and 2, removed any lot lines that showed them possibly not being protected from that. So the green spaces that were platted with Plat C have now been completely taken out of any lot lines, and you'll see that the heavy lot lines established with those are specific to the lot. That was number 1 concern. Also, from the discussions of emails and meetings with this, there also seemed to be a real concern with the termination of Phase C and Barn Cut now that we were establishing a cul-de-sac street instead of a drive-through area. And in doing that, we had a request and a recommendation that I first heard from one of the owners out there was to connect the sidewalks. We have a north and south sidewalk, but they terminated because the street terminated. So what we've done is we terminate the street. There'll be stand-up curb that terminates Barn Cut, and behind that termination point, the 5-foot sidewalk will connect all the way around. And that'll do 2 things. 1, you'll have a continual sidewalk that goes all the way through the neighborhood, Phase C with Saddle Ridge and Barn Cut. The other thing it does actually connects parcel D to parcel E in the green space, and so if you're meandering through the green space, which all residents in Home Place can, they own that property by default, they'll be able to actually get on the sidewalk and connect down into another green space as they're coming down. So it establishes that. There'll also be an easement that connects those 2, so that sidewalk will be included in that easement to allow for that termination. Other than that, Commission, I'm not sure. I feel like that we have satisfied that. The majority of the folks that I spoke with at that meeting, and when we concluded that, were satisfied with our recommendation, and I'm hoping that once this has gone through, they'll be even more satisfied when they see a completed product.
Is there any questions, Mr. Champion? Yes, sir.
There's quite a bit concerning one lady. Y'all got a letter. Did y'all get the letter?
Yes, sir. And I have looked at the letter and went line by line with the answer that Mr. Champion gave to each concern. And if you compare the answers, he has addressed each one of those concerns in his response.
Is that lady here today?
She is.
Wrote the letter.
She is.
Are you okay with all this?
Yes, we just wanted to know how.
Could you come up, please? I don't mean taking over, but
That's
because I
okay.
asked her.
Better come on.
First of all, I want to thank you for that letter.
Well, thank you for reading it.
Yes.
And I appreciate Bob reaching out to everybody and Catherine as well. We haven't seen the final, and I know because of the timeline, we haven't seen a final sort of schematic of this. But as far as capping the sidewalk and there being an easement to connect the 2 green spaces so that there's a green space corridor, we're fine with that. We just, as soon as the final details are available, I think we'd like to see that. We definitely want to see the building continue in the development, so I think we're happy with the outcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just for the record, ma'am, would you identify yourself?
Yeah, we know.
Catherine McCall, and I live at 1006 Saddle Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just one comment. I wish that other people that were as involved would help us out by writing letters to us sometimes to explain in detail what their thoughts are, so we can, in the privacy of my house, I can sit there and realize what she's talking about without any other, thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, well, we've already read this in. And guess we're good for a vote. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. All right, the next thing is, since I started at the bottom and went up, we got 2 and 3 and 1, but we did not approve the minutes. And we have the minutes, and I did note in the minutes from June 19th that I guess they were printed, but they did get emailed to us, and I just printed them from the letter if they're not in there. But it's Mark Bush on line 59 of June 19th meeting is Bart Bush, or Philip Bart Bush. That's the only thing that I noted. And if anybody else noted anything, or if y'all had your minutes, I just happened to try to bring them. Any other items before us? Otherwise?
Just vote on the minutes.
Okay. We want to approve the minutes as read?
I'll approve.
Yes, second. All in favor? We good? Meeting adjourned.